Preeti, how did you convince yourself? Convincing publishers and readers is another thing. Convince yourself that you have a space in writing.
That's an excellent question, actually. And first of all, good evening, all of you, and wonderful to be back in Kozhikode. Kerala is one of my favorite places. I have written 16 books, and a lot of them feature Kerala. Absolutely in love with this place. Malayala Ariya. And I'm not a Malayali, but I learned Malayalam. So you know how much, thank you. So you know how much love I have for the language. And ella Malayalam cinema ekke kaanarundu. So I feel very happy to be here. And Kabani's question, how did I convince that I have a place in writing? Honestly, I never knew. I did not know that I'll become famous. I did not know that my books would sell so many copies. But the thing is, I was writing, when nobody was reading me, I was writing. Now millions of people are reading me, I'm still writing. Okay, every night before I sleep, I write a diary. And I've been writing this for many years. And my first book was at the age of 5. Okay, at 5 or 6 years. When I learned how to write, I wrote a book. So that book was 6 pages long. And 4 pages were writing. And 2 pages were illustrations. And I used to think, how are these writers writing? 200 pages book, 250 pages book. How are these writers writing? And honestly, I never knew whether my writing would be accepted. I did not know that I'll have a place in writing. And it's even after the publication of my first book. My first book was 34 Bubblegums and Candies. After that, I wrote Life is What You Make It. And it's only after that I knew that, yes, I would always win prizes. In school and in college and all, I used to always get prizes for stories, for essays and all that. So I knew I was good at writing. But would I have a place? I didn't know that, frankly.
And before becoming a writer, you started out your career as a blogger. Will you please share the experience of being a blogger?
So actually, it was a very sad incident which prompted me to start writing a blog. Okay, so what happened is, I was living in Pune at that time, and my children were small. Now my children are grown up. So 2 small children, and my father and mother were to visit us a week later. But suddenly, I got a phone call in the middle of the night, and my father was in Kerala at that time, and he had passed away. So it came as a huge shock to me that today we are here seeing each other, but tomorrow we may not be, So it was, his death really affected me. And to get over the deep grief of losing him, and that time I did not even know what a blog was. So I happened to be reading the Economic Times, and I came across one article which talked about blogging. And I said, okay, let me start a blog. And that's how I started a blog. And till then, I had never gone public with my writing, and I didn't know who would be reading it. So it was anonymous. Okay, I just called the blog Just a Mother of Two. And gradually, and I said I would focus on one positive thing that happened during the day. So it can be something like someone making a cup of tea for me, or it can be a rainbow that I saw. And I started writing it, but gradually that positivity, lot of people were reading it. I had readers from Japan, from Brazil. In fact, someone who read from Brazil, she knitted a scarf, one old lady, and she sent it through the post. Like, that was the kind of impact I was having. And in January, what happened is one of my posts won the Perfect Post Award. And that post was about my father. So it was from a radio show host in the US. And then I said, okay, there is something in my writing. And people wanted to see who this person behind this blog was. Because it was anonymous, I just given the name Just a Mother of Two. So they said, put your photo. And I said, I don't know what will happen if I put my photo. So I put photo of my feet. Okay, I took a photo of my feet and I put it, I said they can look at my feet. So from there, it started. And then when my blog started getting noticed, then I said my biggest desire at that time, I should just see my name in print. Okay? ഞാൻ എന്തെങ്കിലും എഴുതണം, എൻ്റെ പേര് പ്രിന്റിൽ കാണണം, അത്രയേ ഉള്ളൂ. That's all my ambition was. So I said, I'll go and how do I achieve that, right? Because I've only written blog. I don't know anyone in newspaper, nothing. So I was in Pune. So in our neighborhood, there was free newspaper. So I went there, I took a newspaper, and the editor aran okay. Then I called him up, okay, because phone number kodutittundarunnu. I called him up. And I said, look, my blogs have won a Perfect Post Award. I have won prizes in college and all. I want to write for your newspaper. He said, okay, fine. And that's how I got my first assignment. So I got the first assignment, and can you guess like what my assignment was? He said, write 500 words on calendars. Okay, imagine now, what will I write? 500 word calendar, what do? It's one Madhrubhumi calendar is there, one Manorama. We just look at dates. So how will I write 500 words? So it was really hard for me, but I wrote it, okay. And then he said, you can do one thing, you come with me, I will take you around to the printer. So I said, I don't know what this fellow is going to do. And mind you, this was 16 years back. So I packed some chili powder in my bag and I went with him, okay. He said, if he's going to act funny, I don't know, because that's one of the challenges. Turned out to be a gentleman. I spoke to the printers. I wrote the article, it got published, and my greatest desire to see my name in print was fulfilled. Because that article was published, on top of that, I got paid for it. I said, wow, this is great. So I wrote more articles for that newspaper. Then when I had written about 10, 12 articles, I took all of that, I walked into Times of India office, and I said, I want to write for Times of India. So because I have written, I won the Perfect Post Award, I have written for this newspaper. Now I want to write for the local newspaper, I want to write for your newspaper. Editor said, no problem, you pitch me the ideas. So I pitched him the ideas. And Pune, there were a lot of things happening at that time. And 16 years back, pocket bike was a big craze. I don't know if you guys know what a pocket bike is. Ariyavo pocket bike endana? So a bike, you can actually fold it and carry it. It's a small bike, so that I found it very interesting. So I wrote about that. And then gradually, the progression of all this was into my first book. Because by then I had built a body of work. Then some of my stuff got published in Chicken Soup for the Soul. Some of my poetry got published. So my journey into writing was step by step by step. Like, it's like when you're climbing a big mountain. You'll take one small step, small step, small step. So it was like that.
And when you speak in Malayalam, we all get goosebumps.
I'm so glad.
Your first book was 34 Bubblegums and Candles, a collection of short stories based on real life incidents. So can you share the experiences of writing the first book, that too based on real life incidents?
Yeah, so my first book was 34 Bubblegums and Candies. So like I said, I was blogging at that time. So my children were small. Now my children are grown up. My son is 26, my daughter is 22. That time they were very small. So they will, they'll tell so many things which are very moving and very, very touching, and I would blog about it. Then I converted that into a book. But there was one thing, Kabani, always I used to ask them, may I share it? Even though they were small, because I felt it was very important to take their permission. It's not like as a mother I can do anything and write about their life. So it was all, I wrote about that. And later, 10 years later, that 34 Bubblegums and Candies was republished as Love a Little Stronger, simply because I felt as a writer I have grown so much. And then when the reader reads the book, for the reader it is new. So they still think my children are small, but now my children are working. So they were all true stories from my life, and it is creative non-fiction. So I was, I think, one of the first writers to write creative non-fiction. A lot of people could relate to it. And because it was published 16 years back, and it was a new concept, so people loved it. That book got a wonderful reception. And that book was my launch pad into the writing career. That was my first book.
And your second book, it is synonymous with the spirit of your the entire creative world. That is, life is what you make it. Can you comment on the title?
Yeah, so before I comment on the title, that book, that was not the title initially, okay? Initially the title was Nobody is Perfect. That was the title. But then that book got rejected over 40 times. Imagine. And I was living in UK at that time. So I got rejected not only in India. I went to UK. There also I got rejected. And 2 years I had researched to write that book. I had traveled to India. I had gone to NIMHANS. I had spoken to patients. I had spoken to a psychiatric nurse. So it was really hard for me to take that rejection. And finally, the publisher of my first book agreed to publish it. Then he said this title, Nobody is Perfect, is a negative title, you know. People won't relate to it. Then I thought, what captures the spirit of the book? It is Life is What You Make It. Because that book is about a girl with a bipolar disorder. It is set in Kerala. So it's set in Kochi, in fact. So I said, okay, let me think. And then I came up with Life is What You Make It. And today, that book has sold over 1 million copies. Saved many lives. A lot of people tell me that it saved lives. It took me 8 years. I wrote a sequel to that book. So that was how that title came. Simply because we didn't want a negative title. And we wanted a title which captures the entire spirit of the book.
It captures the spirit also. And I noticed that you bring about new struggles into the themes. Like the novel, it happens for a reason. The story of a single mother, and then how you choose the themes.
See, mainly I look around me and I see things in society which exist very much, which people don't want to talk about. Okay, like in India also, I'm sure there are children born out of wedlock, and people don't discuss it because it's somewhat a taboo topic. And this was written like more than, I think, 10 years back. So I wanted to write on those topics which people feel uncomfortable. They don't want to discuss that topic. And at the same time, I wanted to make it relatable. So how do these themes come to me? Generally, it is something that I see which affects me, which I feel we have to do something as a society. But we don't do anything because if you see the theme of children born out of wedlock, what percentage is there in India? Hardly anyone, and nobody will tell also because it's such a shame, right? So that's exactly what happens to my protagonist, you know. Her parents are very rich. They pack her away. They say, you quietly have the baby, because she refuses to get an abortion. She says, no, I'm having this baby. So I wanted to write unconventional things. And generally, I pick up those themes which nobody talks about, and I write it in a relatable way with characters. Like the characters will be just like you and me, you know, and I write that kind of a book.
As I mentioned earlier, I translated your 100 Little Flames as Nooru Cherunalangal and into Malayalam, and then your mother liked it. That was one of the best recognitions I ever got. And she knows Malayalam and she read it actually. And usually the writers of the works I translate, they don't read. They get only secondary feedback from. And then as your mother knows, and it was a great recognition. And in that, the characterization is superb. And then that there is Gopal Shankar, and Gopal Shankar starts out as very grouchy and very self-opinionated old man. And then he turns into a very epitome of selfless love. And then Ayan, there is character, and then starts out as a very typical urban youth with a lot of confusions. And then he turns into a man who can bang upon and all that. And then the characterization is intact and very, very, that narrative is superb. And then what goes into the characterization process?
First of all, എത്ര പേര് വായിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട് ആ പുസ്തകം? ഇപ്പോൾ കാബിനി പറഞ്ഞ പുസ്തകം എത്ര പേര് വായിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട്? 100 Little Flames. Okay, no one has read it. So your assignment after this session is to buy a copy of 100 Little Flames and please read it. I'll sign it for you. It's a beautiful story. It is set completely in Kerala. And it's an imaginary place, okay, called Pungavanam. So there is no place like that in Kerala. But if you take any place in Kerala, my mother stays in a small village in Kerala. Any small village if you take, I am like totally in love with Kerala, and you will find that in the book. And in that, like Gopal Shankar, the hero of the book is an 86-year-old man. And he's very grumpy. And he says people who live in flats, he calls it Tipeti. Okay, they're staying in Tipeti. That's what he says. There's a lot of Malayalam phrases in the book. So do pick up that book if you guys haven't read it. And the characterization for me, when I'm creating a character, it's a complete 360-degree character. Okay, it's a full 360-degree. So I will know what the characters are doing in their free time, where did they go to school, and even what toothpaste are they using, how is their bathroom, is that neat, is it tidy, is it untidy, what are their fears. So even for Ayan, whether it's Gopal Shankar, whether it's Rohini, and even if it is a very minor character in a book, I make this huge story. I create all the characters and then only I start writing. So my characterization is a very, very detailed process because I believe that only when this happens do the characters come alive. You'll really feel they are there. You'll really feel that Gopal Shankar exists somewhere.
Yes, and then as she said, it is such a beautiful story set in Kerala. Please read.
Yeah. Please pick
Please
up the
read.
book.
And then in most of your work, and then you cater to the young urban adult readers also. And then what are the elements you include in such works? Young adult fiction you have written. Your works cater to them also, young urban youth. And then what you think, what are their aspirations, what are their wishes, what are their worries, and what are their insecurities? What do you think?
Yeah, sometimes I feel I am a 20-year-old trapped in a 52-year-old's body because I'm 52 years old. And because people tell me that I completely get into the minds of those who I'm writing about. And this book, All the Love You Deserve, is set in the post-pandemic times. And I think post-pandemic times, all the young people here, please tell me, like you all would have attended online classes, correct? Lot of online classes, so they've not gone to college. So a lot of things have been taken away from them. Like even exams and things like that, they have faced things which our generation has never faced. And we live in an age of mammoth distractions. When we were growing up, we never had phones. I didn't even have a television while growing up. But the generation today, you're born with phones, with iPad, with all of that. The distractions are huge. So definitely attention span is one thing that young people face. Secondly, focus. They're not able to focus. Thirdly, the problem of choice. Okay, so we didn't have a choice. If we broke up with a person, what we had to do was tear up that little phone book in which their number is written, throw it away, and we move to another place. That person can't contact us. But now it's not like that. You can make that person jealous by posting photos of what a good time you're having on social media. And you'll post stories. And then you'll go down and see, has that person seen the story? 200, 300 people would have seen. But you'll be searching for that one name because it's important to make that one person see that how great I am and I'm having a good time, I've moved on. Whereas inside they'll be dying. Okay, so I feel these are the problems which young people today face, and that's captured in this particular book. And we all never had that problem. We never had this thing. And young people today are very smart. They're very smart, they're informed. And I feel that with a little focus, they can achieve great things. And that's what I try to capture in my books.
And the character Iron in 100 Till Flames, and you told all of us that, okay, this younger generation still, they believes in true love also. They believe in true love also, through the character of Iron. And let me ask about your one of the most acclaimed works, Secret Wish List. Yeah. And then there is a housewife, a story of a housewife who is having wishes. And we wonder whether a housewife will be having wishes and all that. Please tell us more about this book.
So that Secret Wish List, when I wrote it, it was my third book. Okay, so I was not that experienced a writer. Okay, so in that there's a girl who gets caught kissing a guy from a very conservative place. So her parents send her to Kerala and she gets married. And she's been trapped in the marriage for 15 years. And she's got a son, but she's really not living her life. She's trapped in a stale marriage. So when I was writing that book, so there's a husband who is the villain in that book. And what I did is I took all the qualities, bad qualities of all the men I knew, okay? And I put it in that husband character, in that Sandeep. So Sandeep is the worst person on earth. So I took all of that from every man I knew and I put it. And imagine my utter surprise when after the book came out, lot of men wrote to me and said, oh my God, I'm like Sandeep. Imagine my shock. I was like stunned. And lot of women wrote to me and said, how did you crawl into our heads and write our stories? And there was a very interesting thing that happened. So there was a person, he was traveling from Kochi to Dubai, and he never reads my kind of writing or my kind of books. But he's a businessman, okay, and Malayaliana. And what he did is he picked up this book. And he read it on the flight. He's saying, I started reading it. I could not keep it down till I reached Dubai. And he said he had a conventional marriage and he thought that he had a happy marriage. And when he went home, he's saying it never occurred to him. Very happy family, or so he thought. Okay, 2 kids they have. And he said, it did not even occur to me that my wife can have wishes. I have never once asked her, what are her wishes? So he went and asked her, what are your wishes? So she said, I want to wear a red dress like Julia Roberts in Pretty Woman. And he's saying, I did not even know who Julia Roberts was. Imagine, and they've been married for so many years. And then he sent me a beautiful family photo. He says, I have asked her wishes and I'm making them come true, you know. And he said, I thank you for writing this book. And that's the kind of impact which I never expected, which I'm blown away by. And yesterday one young boy stood up and he said, I never knew mothers can have wishes. He said, you know, and I got another feedback. One boy said, I'm asking my mother what her wishes are and I'm making all of them come true. And that I felt very moved. Because when I was writing, I was just writing a story. But that is one book which has had an impact on many people, and I'm glad I wrote that book.
And then there is All the Love You Deserve, set in the post-pandemic world. And life has changed for all post-pandemic, and it has affected the young the most. Yeah. And they have succumbed to a lot of fear, insecurity, and all that. And they suffer from lack of motivation also. Yeah. And then you have 2 themes in that. One, exposure to social media, and also the comparison to others, whether they are younger, senior, and all that. And then, what is your take on that theme?
Yeah, so these characters, how many of you have read When Love Came Calling? No one. So one more book you all. Oh, he has read When Love Came Calling. So in that book is, whoever hasn't read, pick that book also. And so in When Love Came Calling, it is told from 2 points of view. So there is Pooja, who is a very rich girl, and she lives in Kochi. She's got a beautiful, her father is a very rich businessman. So she's got this huge, house, penthouse, which overlooks the ocean. And Pooja's mother is a successful surgeon. Pooja's sister is an MBA student. She has cleared CAT exam and she's working as a banker. And Pooja fails all her classes, okay? So her mother keeps telling her study and do know what you should be doing, what. And Arush is a boy born and brought up in the UK. He's never been to India. The only thing Indian about him is his name. So they both meet and a lot of things happen. And in that, there is a boy called Sujit who deals with weed and who's cannabis and who's an outcast in the society. But in this book, I have given Sujit also a voice. So what I have done is Pooja comes from this extremely rich background. Arush comes from a middle class background. And Sujit comes from the absolute lower strata of society. And Pooja and Sujit are classmates. So there is an explanation as to how Sujit managed to go to Pooja's school. So the thing is, all of us have different start lines. Our start line is not the same. But when we go on social media, we immediately compare. We forget that our start lines are different. All of us have started not at the same point. So some of us are ahead, some of us are behind. And that's, I feel, it's a very important thing to remember. We don't have the same opportunities. We have to create them. And that's one very important theme in this book. And I feel as young people, even as middle-aged people or older people, we have to remember, because I feel social media, while it has a lot of blessings, one thing is it will make you feel very inadequate. Okay, you feel very inadequate because you might be sitting there in your pajamas feeling sad, and then you open it and you see someone having a fabulous time in Lakshadweep, not Maldives. So, so that's the thing. So I feel about social media, and all of those themes are dealt with in this book.
And speaking of the motivation, lack of motivation, you are a motivational speaker also. And then what made you think so that the younger generation needs motivation and you can do it through talks also, other than books?
What is that?
Other than books?
Yeah.
You think that?
Yes,
okay,
yes.
Through talks also.
Yes.
You give motivational talks
yes,
also.
Yes, I do.
What made you think so?
Yeah, to be honest, so my own children, like I said, they are 26 and 22. And I had a lot of inside information while writing this book. Because my daughter was, now she's working in London. That time she was studying. So every day I would write one chapter and I would send it to her and she'll say, Mama, write more, write more. And she and I are very close. Yesterday till 3 a.m. I was talking to her simply because by the time she finishes work in UK, it's already 11 in India. So every day we talk. So I feel that the younger generation today is very different from what it was. She'll say, Mama, our generation is like this today, you know. This is what we talk. So I get all this information. I speak to her friends come over, my son's friends come over, and I see that these people are bright, smart, young people, and I feel they need this little direction. And the thing is, most of their parents are conservative, okay, like Pooja's parents. So they tell them things that worked for them. But the thing is, if parents expect the kids to behave like they did when they were 20, that's not going to work. And you're going to be alienated from your children. And that's one thing which I have explored. Why I give motivational talks, it so happens that I get a lot of money for it. They tell me to give a talk, so I accept it. But other than that, it's not with a great intent. And people find my words motivating. So hence I accept speaking assignments, and I was good at speaking too. I had won prizes in college for public speaking. So that just happened to be like a spin-off from writing and from the messages that I wanted to convey. That's all.
And to some, writing is a philosophical challenge. To some, it is aesthetic expression. To some, it is political activism. And to you, what is writing?
So to me, writing is life. Okay, writing is how I make sense of the world around me. When I feel upset, when things don't make sense, I write. You can check out my Instagram account, Preeti.Shenoy. I talk about journaling. So I write every single day in my journal. And what do I write about? I write about something that has happened, which if I feel, because what happens is when it is in our heads, our thoughts are very jumbled. Okay, one incident has happened, our mind works very fast. I call our mind a monkey mind. Everybody's mind, not only my mind. Our minds are monkey minds because what we do is we build up stories, we make connections, and even if a small thing has happened, it just becomes a huge thing in our head. But when we write it down, okay, we are actually unentangling what happened. We are making sense of it. And then a solution comes to us. So for me, that is always how I have dealt with my problems. I write affirmations. Okay, things like I am a powerful magnet for all the good in the universe. These are very powerful words, and I feel words have a power. Try it. If you have never journaled, try it. Your life will make so much sense, and you don't have to worry about grammar or whether it looks nice because the journal is for yourself. So for me, writing is life. Writing is what I make sense. Some of it is for public consumption, like these books. Some of it I don't share with anyone. It's for my private things. But writing to me is so essential.
And among your all works, which was the most successful?
If you look at how, like that begs the question, how do we define success? So is it number of copies sold? If it is number of copies sold, I would say the most successful is life is what you make it. But if you ask the impact, okay, what it has had. One person might say when love came calling because that book came to them at that point in their time when they needed to read that. Someone else may say secret wish list. That person who traveled from Kochi to Dubai will probably say secret wish list. Somebody else may say 100 Little Flames because I know that's your favorite. So which is my most successful book? I really don't know, but what I consider success is my words have made an impact on people. And that I know from the messages that I get. You know, so many Instagram messages I get. And I manage it myself. I don't have a team. I reply to every message. So for me, that is success. That is success. So I would say all my books are successful. But in the eyes of publisher, maybe one or two. But in my eyes, like the fact that someone has been prompted to open that Instagram, write a message to me after reading my book, that is success for me.
And which you like most? Like which is your favorite?
So for me, as a writer, I believe that with every book, I write better. Okay, that was the reason I republished 34 Bubblegums and Candies was republished as Love a Little Stronger. And I feel, as a writer, I feel this particular book, All the Love You Deserve, simply because it was very hard to write. it is 2 time zones, 3 points of view. So if I get into the technical writing, each character has a story arc. And all of it has to come together and go in one manner which is smooth. So this book I rewrote 6 times. Because something is happening in Ayan's life, something is happening in Sujit's life, something is happening in Pooja's life. They are all interconnected and the story has to make sense and all the arches have to come together, and that was very hard. So for me, if you ask me, it's always the latest book, I would say it's this one.
It makes sense. And how you assess the importance of editing in a work, editing? Like in Malayalam, editing is almost absent. But in other, editing.
Editing,
the importance of editing. In Malayalam, it is almost absent.
Really?
Yeah, almost absent.
Why is that?
I don't know actually. Okay. It is almost absent, and we are not giving any importance to editors and all. Oh. And then to the non-Malayalam writers and then Indian English writers, and they all say that editors are very important and all that. And how do you edit your works? Is it self-editing or is there a stable editor behind all the books?
Sometimes it's different editor because editor comes from the publisher, and I think editing is very important, very important. In fact, I get annoyed when if the proofreader has, so there are 2 kinds of editing. One is the content editing and second is copy editing. So content editing is when we get suggestions as to the story could have taken this turn or the story could have taken that turn. And for me, that has to come from a trusted person. Okay, it has to come from a trusted person. So I have to have a good equation with the editor who gets my work. And for one of my books, A Place Called Home, I had a beautiful equation with the editor and she made the book actually better. But some other book, the editor was not so good. So the editor says like this. I said, no, that is not how it is. So because I'm very protective about my work, but I'm open to suggestion. So if the editor says something which makes a difference, I will definitely incorporate it. I'll definitely change it. And I get very angry when the proofreader misses the typing, typos, small typos. Like sometimes because we are writing 70,000 words and by the time it's edited 3, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times, like the manuscript comes with so many, some changes I accept, some I reject. Finally, it goes for proofreading. So the proofreader has only one job. See that there are no errors. And sometimes there are still errors, then that annoys me. But I think editing is super important in any book. And I don't know why Malayalam writers don't edit.
It is like that for decades. We should actually assess the reasons for that.
Okay,
yes.
I didn't know that.
Yes. And then what are your upcoming projects?
So I have written a book called A Place Called Home. It is set in a beautiful coffee estate in Coorg. And the protagonist of that book is a maid's daughter. Okay, all my books have unusual protagonists. So she's a maid's daughter who goes to the same house as the lady of the household, her daughter. So there's a sequel coming up to that book. In that book, it was like a lot of people felt the hero and heroine of that book is Alka and Krish. So a lot of people, and Alka is actually in love with her husband's brother. Her husband's brother is Krish because they had a relationship before they got married. And that comes in the first chapter itself. So, and that book ended and a lot of people felt, oh, we want to know more about Alka and Krish, what happened. So right now, in fact, I'm working on that book. That book will come out this year. It's a sequel to A Place Called Home.
And will there be a second sequel to 100 Little Flames?
I am thinking about it. I'm definitely thinking about it because there is a lot which can be done. I won't give away. For those who have not read, I won't, because you know what happens. Yeah. But yes, I am definitely considering it.
And maybe open the slot to questions.
Yeah, surely, yes.
Slot is open for questions to the audience.
Yeah, if you have any questions, please ask me. And Malayalathil chodikam. Enki manasilavu, no problem at all. So you can speak in Malayalam too. Yeah, I guess I will read a small excerpt from this book if there are no questions. So you guys can think about questions to ask me. And what I'll do is I will read the back blurb of this book. So it gives you an idea of what the book is about. Pooja and Arush, separated by 5,000 miles, are steadfastly committed to each other. They believe they can make it work until time zones and life gets in the way. Sujit, trapped between his troubled past and turbulent present, desperately wants to break free, but does not know how to. He hopes to make things right with Pooja, but will she ever forgive him? Even as three of them grapple with life in the post pandemic world, each must discover their calling, manage family relationships, and their own unruly emotions. No one said being an adult was easy. This is the story of three young people from starkly different backgrounds with intertwined faiths fighting for what they value most. But what will they have to give up to get what they want? So that's the back blurb of this book.
Any questions? Yes.
Just give a mic to the gentleman in the...
Ma'am,
Yeah, I can hear you.
ma'am, I strongly believe that a reader should stop reading a book that he or she doesn't enjoy. But as an author, do you have the luxury of abandoning a book that you don't really enjoy?
Yeah, 100%. I am a reader more than an author because I read a lot. I have reviewed over 200 books on my Instagram. It's there in highlights. And the fact is, there are thousands and thousands of good books waiting to be discovered. So, as an author, I'm telling you, if you don't enjoy my book, don't read it. What I do as a reader is I give it like 30 pages, 35 pages, 40 pages. And after that, if the book's not speaking to me, I abandon it. I have no qualms about it. Because life is too short and life is too beautiful for you to waste time on books that don't appeal to you. I wouldn't call them bad books, but that's a book which doesn't work for you. So abandon it and go on to the next book.
പക്ഷേ മാം എനിക്ക് ഇപ്പം ബാഡ് ബുക്ക് എന്ന് ഞാൻ വിചാരിക്കുന്ന ഒരു ബുക്ക് അത് എനിക്ക് ഒട്ടും ഇൻട്രസ്റ്റിംഗ് അല്ലാത്തൊരു ബുക്കല്ലേ
പിന്നെ എന്തിനാ വായിക്കണേ അത്
ബട്ട്
പൈസ കൊടുത്തുകൊണ്ട്
നോ ഐ എം സെയിങ് ഒരു റൈറ്റർ ആവുമ്പോൾ സ്റ്റീഫൻ കിങ് പറഞ്ഞിട്ടുണ്ട് അദ്ദേഹത്തിന് കൂടുതൽ അദ്ദേഹം റൈറ്റിംഗ് പഠിച്ചിട്ടുള്ളത് ബാഡ് ബുക്സിൽ കൂടി പഠിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ട് എന്ന് അപ്പം ആസ് എ റൈറ്റർ അത് എങ്ങനെയാണ്
See, as a writer, I get annoyed if the writing is bad. എനിക്ക് ദേഷ്യം വരും. I don't have patience to read through bad writing. And bad writing വായിക്കണമെങ്കിൽ ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് 10 പേജ് വായിച്ചിട്ട് ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് അറിയാം അത് തല്ലിപ്പൊളിയാണ്, it's not good. So we can discard it. We don't have to read 100 pages to know what is bad in that book. So I believe that. So I believe in not wasting time. So you read it, maybe 15-20 pages you read. But if you really want to read bad books, no one can stop you. But I won't read. I won't waste my time. Because by 10-15 pages, I know what he's going to say. And I know the writing is bad. Then I won't read at all. This lady in the front, please give her the mic.
Hi.
Hi.
I just want to know, when Love Came Falling, is this book, All the Love You Deserve, is a sequel of Love Came Falling?
Yes. It's a
because they have the same characters.
Yes, it's
I picked this book up yesterday.
Yeah.
I want to buy the other one too. Just
Okay.
make sure.
No, you can read this as a standalone, but it is
Thank you.
actually a sequel. But the thing is, even if you have not read that book, you will understand. Because while the characters are the same, they are much older. In this book, they are in their 20s. In that book, they were teenagers. So even after you read this, if you want to know more about Pooja and Arush, you can meet their younger versions in the first book. And this book is post-pandemic. That was before the pandemic. So the two are connected, but you can read it as a standalone also. You don't have to read the first one to understand this one. Any more questions? So, okay. Yeah, tell me.
Are all your writings colored by your personal experiences?
I think as a writer, most of us draw from our personal experiences. But if you ask me, has that very incident happened to me? It may or may not have happened. In Secret Wishlist, there is an incident where this girl, the bag gets exchanged. So that had actually happened to me. My brother's friend had come home and he had a bag which looked similar to mine. So he kept the bag outside and I picked it up and I took it to my room and I kept it in my room. So when it was time for him to leave, he's searching for the bag. So I'm also searching along with him, not knowing that I have kept a bag inside. And we are searching. We said, who has stolen this bag? That too, the bag is kept outside. What kind of people steal a bag? Ara veetinte athu and the bag edutkondu pone and all that. Finally, we found out that the bag was very much in my room. So that was like an incident, true incident, which came into the book. But a lot of time, I change a lot of details. So everything is not true. Like, there is truth in our lies, and there are lies in our truth in fiction. So,
Thank you.
Excuse me, do you have a session tomorrow that was anticipated?
yes, we do have a session tomorrow.
What time?
I don't know, you'll
Tomorrow,
have to-
this session was supposed to be tomorrow at 3 p.m.
No. So I think what happened is the person who was supposed to be here couldn't make it. So they asked me, will I do a session? I said yes. So there is a session tomorrow too.
You don't know the time. As such.
You can just check the schedule, please.
No, the schedule, it is given 3 p.m.
Yeah, so then
tomorrow.
it's that, yeah. This
So
there.
I can go by that.
Yes. Yes, very much. Yeah, there's a question there.
I'm just wondering, what are the specific challenges when it comes to writing something as concrete as a novel? I don't mean poetry, I don't mean short stories, I don't mean essays, but something as concrete as a novel as a neurodivergent person.
What are the challenges?
Yeah, if you're neurodivergent, which means you go through your ups and downs, you may be on medication, something could trigger you, and you're in the process of something deeply engrossing. You could be in the research phase, you could be in the writing phase, you could be in the middle of, the plot point, like a crux plot point. When you go through something as someone who's neurodivergent, it's a major challenge as opposed to someone who's not. So how do you get over a challenge like that?
For me, honestly, while writing a novel, the biggest challenge is the doorbell ringing. It's very annoying because, people just think I'm sitting at home and doing nothing, and ting tong, the doorbell goes, and there's a courier, and then there's an ironing guy, and there's a gardener, and there's a car washer, and all of that. And these daily challenges are what I find challenging because I have no dearth of ideas. At any point, if you open my laptop, there will be like 100 ideas. And if you run into a problem while you're writing, that's generally because you have not done the other steps which are needed. Like if you get stuck in the 6th chapter, it's generally because something is not working out in the 2nd chapter or the 1st chapter. So then you have to backtrack and go and see what is wrong there. Maybe you have not done enough research, maybe your characters are not developed, so maybe there's something else, and then you need to fix that problem. So for me, mostly the challenges that I face are physical challenges, like finding the time for it. These days I'm traveling a lot. So in fact, I was working on my book even before I left for this session. So for me, it's those challenges more than the technical challenges which you mentioned.
No, I meant like the challenges of mental health, like when they come in the way of your writing. Like how do you overcome those challenges?
Yeah, that comes with experience. So my first book, maybe I wasn't so experienced. Second book, I got more. Third book, now I've written 16 books. So hence, it becomes easier as you write more and more. And I feel you have to do courses which give you the basics, like the basics of the craft. Like any craft has basics. Whether it's creating a plot, whether it's creating strong characters, getting idea, putting it all together. Your fundamentals have to be very strong before you venture into the craft of writing, because you have to give the craft the respect that it deserves. Once you take those steps, it will become easier. I wouldn't say you will not face challenges. You will face challenges. I did face challenges while writing this book. I rewrote it 5 times so that the reader has a very smooth experience, but it gets easier with time. Time and practice, like anything else.
there any question?
Okay, so what we can do is we'll do a fun activity now. You guys tell me a page number, okay? Call out a page number. I will read 2 lines from that page number because generally authors read out what they want to present. You know, the best of the book they'll read out. So I want to break that. So any page number, this book has up to page number 233. So you guys call out, no, up to 235. So you guys call out a page number. I will read a few lines and hopefully it won't be a spoiler because I know all of you are going to pick up the book after the session. So yeah, you guys, sorry? 130? 133, okay. So I'll read out a couple of lines from 133. So the book is told from 3 points of view. It's Pooja, Sujit and Arush. So 133 happens to be Arush's voice. Okay? And Arush lives in UK, as you know. I used to live in the UK, so a lot of my experiences have gone into the book. The whole group is quite bowled over by the beauty of Scotland, just as I had been when I first arrived here. I remember how Jenna and I had sketched Edinburgh Castle, sitting side by side when we had got here as a part of our college outbound trip. I remember all the sights. The statue of Robert Burns, whose toe people rubbed for good luck. The irony being that he was a staunch opposer of such superstition. The grave of the dog Bobby, who was also known as Greyfriars Bobby, and many more. Jenna and I sketched with free abandon. So that's from page 133. 200. Let me see whose voice 200 is. So 200 is actually an interesting character. It's in the voice of Sujit. Like I said, the book is in 3 voices. So 200 is from Sujit, and Sujit comes from a lower socio-economic background, completely different from Arush and Pooja. Despite my profound sense of loss, Amma's words and Jacob's fundraiser both inspire me. I had always thought of the restaurant as a way to make money, but I now see how it is so much bigger than just that. So many supporters, it's on me to take it forward. The first step is to hire a bulldozer and clean up all the debris. Let's just see how much money Jacob manages to raise. I will get an estimate from a building contractor, and after that, maybe I can get a loan from the bank. We will build a new place, Amma, I tell her. So that's Sujit. I think that was a spoiler, but I didn't give the context, so it's okay. 42, okay. So 42 is again in the voice of Sujit. So, did it kind of make you feel powerful? And now that you don't deal or do the substance anymore, do you feel that some of the power has been taken away? This is a conversation between Sujit and a therapist. I sit still for a few seconds thinking about what he just said. And then it hits me that he's absolutely right. Damn, this Dr. Harsh is good. That's exactly what this is about. But even I hadn't realized it till he phrased it this way. I suppose yes, though it didn't occur to me till you said it, I admit. No one likes to not be invited to things, Sujit. It's natural. But now that you know it, you can be more aware of every action of yours. So that was from 42. Who said 100? That person has to read 100 Little Flames. Okay, that's your assignment. Okay, I'll read from 100. So 100 is in Arush's voice again. Nobody is getting Pooja, so you all have not heard Pooja's voice. So 100 is from, you said 100, right? Oh, sorry, I opened 110. Yeah, 100 is actually Pooja's voice. So you actually get to read Pooja's voice. Benny has made me a job offer and it takes me completely by surprise. He messaged me on Instagram and said that they are looking for a social media manager. He says the reel I made has helped him generate a ton of business. And Mr. Nambiar and he both felt the need for a dedicated social media manager after they saw what it could do for the business. I told him that I'll think about it, as it will mean I will have to move to Varkala. So it's all set in Kerala, all scenes and places familiar to you guys. So that was 100. If you have any more questions, I'll take a couple and then we'll wrap up.
So, I think that there is no more questions, so we can wind up the session. And thank you, Preeti, for the wonderful interaction. Actually, it spanned your entire writing career. And thanks to each and everyone who participated in it. Thank you.